I've helped over 100 clients hire more than 500 people, and I've sat in more interviews than I can care to count. I'm going to give you the 8 questions you should ask every candidate during the job interview to maximize the chances of hiring the right person. The big mistake I see is that people oftentimes hire people because they're likable, because they're friendly, because they're polite. But you don't want to hire people for that. You want to hire people who move the needle. And sure, hiring nice people is a bonus, but it's not a prerequisite. Now, be warned, those 8 questions I'm about to give you aren't your typical HR questions. They aren't generic interviewing questions. As a matter of fact, I don't want to alienate anybody here, but I'm absolutely against hiring as an HR person. You should hire somebody as if you were the business owner and as if your business depended on it, because it actually does. Business are built on people, and the better the people you bring in, the better the growth of the business. Because when you hire like HR, you ask generic questions. And people can prepare to answer those questions. People know these questions. And people who can perform good during an interview are not necessarily people who perform well doing the job. My name is Quentin. I run 20-Hour Founder. We help 6- and 7-figure founders build businesses they can run in 20 hours per week without cutting profit by fixing who they hire, how they train, and what they delegate. Now, my first question is always, who's sitting in front of me? Because you want to know who that person actually is. And most people will just start regurgitating their CV or their resume, and you don't want that. If they start telling you what they did, you stop them. And you tell them, look, no, that's what you've done. I want to know who you are. Because you want to get to know the person, what makes them tick, what makes them smile, what makes them cry, I don't care. You want to look for self-awareness, you want to look for energy, for identity. Because skills can be trained and you can grow by doing the thing, but identity is more of a fixed thing, and sure, it can evolve, but I don't think you've got 5 to 10 years to wait for somebody to finally grow up. You're hiring a human, you're not hiring a skill set. So that first question allows you to dig deeper on the human side of things. And you know what? I've got great answers on these questions, because people very often talk about, yeah, I love horses or I love cooking. Well, guess what? I also love cooking. I make a really tremendous pasta carbonara. So if somebody is sitting in front of me and they tell me that they also like to cook pasta, well, we're off to a great start. And the thing is that when you do that, you put people at ease, and when people are at ease, they also give you better answers and they have a better interview experience, and so do you. Big bonus if you find common ground. The second question you want to ask is, what made you change jobs? And go over their 3 to max 5 jobs over a period no longer than 10 years. Because if it's more than 10 years ago, well, chances are they're not really the same person they were back then as they are now. So it's kind of pointless to me. What you want to do is look for patterns, because if they change jobs every time and say, yeah, I was bored there, and then, yeah, and that work wasn't challenging enough, yeah, there wasn't enough work for me, well, you could look at somebody who has a pattern for changing jobs because they need more variation, and you think that that person might get bored easily. But the thing is with patterns that it's not always what they seem. No, maybe they got bored because they were underused. Maybe there wasn't a lot of work in those companies and they just had a company that wasn't a fit for them. And maybe you're just sitting in front of somebody who's very eager to work. Same thing goes with money. Usually my clients tell me, yeah, look, I don't want somebody who's just looking for a higher salary. But I think that's completely backwards. What you want to do is ask that person what they are prepared to do for that higher salary. I mean, my top performer is super money driven, and it's great. And it's not that he does it because of the money, but because of what the money allows him to do. He wanted to buy a house. He wanted to make babies. And because of that, he needed a lot of money. And that's perfectly okay, because I can get behind that goal. So I'm paying him a lot of money, but in return, he is prepared to do a lot of work. And that's perfectly okay. So when you uncover a pattern, don't go thinking it's bad. Ask that person what they are prepared to do to meet their expectations. And then make sure you can match them. Because if I'm sitting in front of a money-hungry person, but I know that I can't meet their expectations with my hiring budget, well, I won't hire them because 6 months, 12 months, 2 years later, they will quit because they are still looking for that opportunity that's going to pay them what they think they're worth or what they need for their lifestyle. And that's perfectly fine. So be honest and hire people inside your budget, inside your expectations. And I think that's one of the biggest retention hacks I can give you. It's hire people who fit. The third question would be, what were your goals, your targets, and what did you do to meet them? And then you want to listen for clarity. If they can't tell you or if they can't articulate their targets, that's a big red flag. If they only talk in we instead of I, that's also a red flag. Because when they say we, it means they did it as a team. And in a team, you always have high performers and you have coasters. And you want to know which one of the two is sitting in front of you. So you want them to speak in I. So if they say, yeah, we did this, yeah, you won't just interrupt them politely. And you ask them, okay, great, you did that as a team, but what was your contribution to that result? And if they then tell you that they carried the whole team because they had to find the clients and then wasn't doing a good job and they stepped in and they also were there, and then you know you've got a workhorse. If they tell you like, yeah, well, I had a super great marketing team and they were bringing me more leads than I could handle, I mean, selling has never been easier, well, you know that you're sitting in front of a salesperson who's got off easy with getting leads, and you know as well as me that when you get a lot of leads, selling becomes easier. So zoom in on where they had to stretch themselves and zoom in where they missed their targets or their deadlines, and also look at how they went about it. Because when people don't care about missing targets, you run. Now, my fourth question is, who is your favorite manager and why? Because oftentimes people recreate the environment they admired, but they will also tell you about a positive experience they had. Now, by doing that, they also tell you what they value. So let's say they had this great manager, we'll call him John. John was always there for them and had always good advice, and he was the first one to help them, go with them to the client, take work off their plate, and John was a great facilitator. Well, then you know that are used to getting a lot of support. On the other hand, if they say, yeah, my best manager was a great guy, I never heard him, he left me alone, he left me to do my job, and that's great because I could do my job however I wanted it, and because of that I reached my goals. Well, then you have somebody who just wants a manager who gives them autonomy. And then you ask yourself the question, does this match with my leadership style or with the team style? It's as easy as that. And question number 5 is, what are you the most proud of? And you want to listen about how they tell the story. Is it with pride? Is it with enthusiasm? Are they happy telling the story? Because the way they tell it and the scale on which they're proud of what they did is a strong indicator of who they are and how they perform. Plus, it will just tell you the scale they operate at also. People who can only celebrate very small wins aren't usually a good sign if you're a very competitive firm who's looking to grow. You want people who chase the big goals if you chase big goals. On the other hand, if you're looking for an admin and he or she tells you that their proudest achievement is that they never missed a deadline, yeah, well, that's fucking huge. And okay, it's not a success, and it might not seem like a tremendous success story, but not missing deadlines for an admin is admirable work. Then number 6 is asking them, what are you looking for in your next job? And that's a super broad question because people are going to answer, some are going to tell you what responsibilities they're looking for, career opportunities, salary expectations, what kind of coworkers they perform best with, and really you don't care what they tell you. Well, no, actually you do care, but you don't care what they start with. You want to be able to dig deeper in the conversation and get to know them better, and also look for overlap or matches with your company, but also with what you can provide, because if they're looking for things you can provide, just don't hire them. And the 7th question is kind of my favorite. It's the unexpected question. For me, is that I like to interrupt the interview and completely switch it by asking, hey, by the way, can you tell me what Brad Pitt has that I don't have? And the thing is that I'm not comparing me to Brad Pitt, but it surprises people, and you want to see how quick people are to bounce back, how they react when something unexpected happens. And that's why I like that question, because a lot of times people just shut down or they frown, or they dry up and tell me, oh, that's a really strange question. But a lot of times people also turn into really great things, and I had one guy telling me, no, the question should be, what do you have that Brad Pitt doesn't? And it gives you an indication of how people react, and plus it lightens the interview very often. But the main goal is just to ask them a question they weren't prepared to answer. And then you watch their composure, you watch their playfulness, you watch how they recover, because you're just testing adaptability and not knowledge. And my 8th and last question is mandatory. It's, what questions do you have for me? And here comes one of the biggest red flags in interviews. If somebody doesn't have any questions for you, or they tell you that you explained everything very well, and because of that all the questions they had are answered, you're sitting either in front of a liar or in front of someone who didn't prepare or isn't interested in the job at all. In my book, no questions is a lack of preparation and a lack of ownership. Good candidates, interested candidates, always have questions. And the depth of those questions will also tell you a lot about how much they're considering you. If they're asking you, yeah, but what's the salary? Okay, it's an okay question, by the way, to ask during an interview. I know a lot of my clients punish people for asking that question or thinking it's inappropriate. It's not. People are coming to work for money, so it's okay. But if they just ask about money and the benefits and then pay time off, and it's only about them, that's a yellow flag. But if they ask, when could I start? What does the team look like? Can I meet them? Those are interest-based questions, and those are usually the best questions. Mastering hiring is the biggest lever you can pull in your business. Because when you hire the right people, everything becomes so much easier. Your team performs better, your standards go up, your time frees up, and your company grows in a much smoother way than it has done before. Because when you hire the wrong people, you don't only lose money, you also lose time and you lose momentum. Hiring isn't about eliminating risk. It's about reducing the probability that you hire the wrong person and increasing the probability that you will hire the right one. And these 8 questions we just talked about drastically improve your odds. If you want to go deeper and see my full hiring framework, watch this video next, where I go in the nitty-gritty of hiring. Because one great hire will change your business forever, but one wrong hire can destroy a whole year of work. So that being said, I'll see you there.